Welcome to a very special episode of What I Wish I Knew. We are distilling the takeaways from Varicent Accelerate in Boston, the largest sales performance management event of the year. The theme was driving growth, and we had 3 full days. Each started with general sessions and continued on with breakouts, solution, hands-on labs, and each of them drilled into shared best practices, new ideas, and new Varicent capabilities. We were also thrilled to have speakers and panelists from companies like Humana, Microsoft, Pepsi, and Shopify. Each day wrapped with a fun-filled chance to network, complete with local drinks and eats, and it wouldn't be Boston without a terrible impression of a Boston accent: lobster rolls. 3 key themes stood out for me. The words relentless innovation, what that means to each of us, to technology and sales performance management broadly. The second was AI and data. It was everywhere. And the third is, how do these things tie into the changing face of work? So let's dig into the first theme, relentless innovation. Our first keynote was delivered by Varicent CEO Mark Altschiller, where he set the stage for our event. Mark used artificial intelligence as an example of a technology that can change the face of how we do business, and fast. He also reflected many leaders, including himself, were caught off guard by the rapid pace of AI's evolution. A quote he shared was, "Being proactive isn't just an advantage, it's a necessity. This game-changing innovation, artificial intelligence, should be a call to action for all of us, not only to stay informed, but also to stay ahead." At Accelerate, we introduced the 3 pillars needed for a company to be future ready with their sales performance management, platforms, and processes. Mark talks about the 3 strategic pillars in this clip.
I'm going to distill down to 3 strategic pillars that I believe combine the essence of what today's CEOs are focused on, directly relate to your day-to-day jobs, and align perfectly with the solutions Varicent provides. These themes consume our thinking as we continue to advance the Varicent platform. Our first strategic pillar in Future Ready SPM is identifying and executing on resilient growth initiatives. Resilient growth initiatives always begin with proper planning. And at Varicent, we're not rewriting the rules of how best-of-breed sales planning software supports your planning efforts. Our approach here was not to apply our existing tech to this problem. Instead, we embarked on a year-long journey where we showed you what we were thinking, we listened to you, we did our research, and you showed us what you disliked around existing solutions in the marketplace. You showed us your spreadsheet models, and what did you do? You taught us how to develop with empathy. Our second strategic pillar to Future Ready SPM is agility and flexibility. I do feel like I've seen it all when it comes to incentives, and there's no place I see this more paramount than in the channel incentive area. And by the way, the exact opposite used to be true. For decades, industries like insurance, telecommunications, technology, and travel relied on custom, homegrown, often mainframe-powered systems. And these systems persisted because channel partners were highly loyal, and so incentives contract remained relatively static. Today, the landscape has shifted. Our third and final strategic pillar for Future Ready SPM, enhanced collaborative efficiency. Here, we see eliminating functional silos essential and the next frontier for streamlining sales performance management.
Mark talks about the 3 strategic pillars: resilient growth initiatives, agility and flexibility, and enhanced collaboration and efficiency. This idea was reinforced by a number of different breakout sessions. One in particular was a leading consulting firm who stated, "The marketplace has changed. These changes have been driven by changes in technology." Also in Mark's keynote, he released the Revenue Performance Engine. This is both a framework and an architecture, and we've been co-advancing this framework with many of our clients, and we believe this is going to be the future of how organizations plan, manage, and optimize SPM. The second theme was AI was everywhere, and data that underpins the value AI can bring, that was everywhere too. It was certainly in general sessions, it was in customer sessions and thought leadership panels, it was in breakouts, And there was even a photo booth taking pictures. Check these out. On the main stage, there was a poem recited that was written by artificial intelligence. It was certainly no William Shakespeare, but it proved a point. Somehow magically, Mark seemed to be able to tie artificial intelligence to our beloved Taylor Swift as well.
Unprecedented barely scratches the surface of the technological revolution we're experiencing today. We're not just merely living through a shift. We're at the epicenter of the most significant and rapid technology-driven transformation the world has ever seen, and it's driven by generative AI. Whether it's algorithms that can draft legal documents in seconds, to AI that can make any tech founder sound like Shakespeare. That was Shakespeare, right? The impacts are pretty mind-blowing. Here's one another parent was telling me about last week. So we gave it a try over the weekend. I can create coloring books for my daughter. I just type in a description on the scene, and in seconds, pops out a page of her recent trip to Central Park for her to color. And then I stuffed a crayon in her hand and started snapping pictures to shamelessly put it in my keynote in time for this morning. So, while I believe accurate to use the term unprecedented times, generative AI is more accurately described as the biggest and fastest shift we've ever seen in our lifetimes so far. And simply describing it as unprecedented is like calling a Taylor Swift concert kinda popular. It's a massive understatement. So let's take our own walk through personal eras in a world tour, the New Millennium Technology Eras Tour. And unlike those Taylor Swift tickets, it won't cost you 3 months' rent, but consider how each of these moments seemed unprecedented at the time, yet what's truly thrilling and a bit unnerving is the acceleration we've experienced from one technological milestone to the next.
We heard a lot about data and how it underpins the value of AI models. Customer panels talked an awful lot about data. One customer said, "We work on structuring our data to use in incentives and also in our data lake to make it available to other groups like human resources. They can now run models around predicting attrition, etc." So what this tells me is that it breaks down the silos as per that model that we talked about and that Mark talked about. Wrapping up Accelerate, we had a Q&A session with some of Varicent's own executives. We had our Chief Marketing Officer, Bill Habib, and he was asked, what do you think the themes are going to be for next year's Accelerate? No surprise, he talked about artificial intelligence, he talked about data, and he also talked about building bridges across the organization, leveraging AI. Let's have a listen.
The state of AI models today, I think, could best be characterized as still being one of immaturity. And so even as everybody may have advanced, we're still at a very immature state and lots of headroom. So I'm going to give you 3 possible themes for next year. One of them is going to be an advancement in the integration of AI into personalized and predictive analytics, maybe down to the level of individual sellers. But I think you're going to see an advancement in that in specific use cases and much more dialogue about that. This said, the second point I'd like to make and possible theme is going to be one of the challenge of data and how people have overcome that challenge of data. I heard from many of you here the challenge of your data. The predictive benefits of AI are only as good as the data that you put in. I think we'll be hearing more about the advances that have been made in the accuracy and completeness of that data on which the AI predictions are happening. And then last but not least, what I heard from many of you in one-on-one conversations and group conversations was something like the following. I love the vision for the revenue performance engine and the architecture and the framework, but my piece is just one gear here. But I can see now how getting some of these other gears aligned would be of great benefit. And so playing back what I heard from you all, I think next year you're probably going to hear more stories about the realization of the revenue performance engine. I thought I was here, but I've now aligned this other function. I made these 2 gears work together, and that provided a really great benefit for my business. So I think first, the advancement of AI into specific use cases in predictive and personalized analytics. Secondly, improvements in data. Lastly, real stories about how some of those gears that spun on the slide are now spinning for you and connecting in your organizations and delivering great success.
The third theme was the discussion on the changing face of work. Varicent's chief product officer talks about how to leverage AI and the need to have the right people with the right skills in the right place to be agile enough to adapt to market conditions. There are a couple of stats he touches on, but the first is, despite economic up and down, 92% of CEOs are finding a way forward and they feel they have the right strategy. 77% have confidence in what they're doing right now. This is great news. That being said, 87% of these CEOs or C-level folks say it's critical to have the right people in place, but about 50% said they didn't think they had confidence in the people that they had in place right now. In terms of how work itself is going to change, anecdotally, people are concerned they're going to lose their jobs. In addition, executives are feeling a tremendous amount of pressure to have an artificial intelligence strategy and be rolling it out sooner than later. Martin Fleming, Varicent's chief revenue scientist, believes that it's not going to reduce jobs per se, it's going to change the way that people work. In fact, in one keynote, the speaker said, you won't get replaced by artificial intelligence, you're actually going to get replaced by the people already using AI. So how do we talk about applying classical AI and Gen AI within SPM itself? Others talk about business optimization and revenue protection. There are insights on using AI and predictive analytics in order to optimize business processes, of course. Other use cases talk about detecting fraudulent activity. One of our speakers, Ravi, said Gen AI and predictive analytics is not just a way to get to a particular goal, but also helps to uncover additional patterns. Our own Chief Revenue Officer, Greg Filiotis, talks about compressing the line, improving sales productivity to drive revenue linearity. Let's hear him talk about it.
Table stakes are close rates, forecast accuracy, lead conversion, all those things that we expect. Those are table stakes. For me, it really comes down to sales productivity. Sales productivity of the rep, of the territory, of the team. And productivity, that word to me, is a lot of different things. Right? It's consistency, cost effectiveness, predictable, linearity, Rob, linearity in the revenue stream. That gives us that overall sales productivity number. I'll give you a pictorial. Sales campaign, 2 points, point A, point B. And the journey between those 2 points to finish a sales campaign. You could go 100 miles to do it, or you can go 4 miles, right? So those gaps, as we talk about evolution, all those gaps, what I'm watching for all the time is how are we compressing that line down to 80 miles, 20 miles, 10 miles. It'll never be perfect. It'll never be a straight line, but I'm hoping tools like ours with AI are going to get us to compressing that gap as much as possible.
Trending more compressed and more compressed.
Yep.
Relentless innovation, data and AI, as well as the changing face of work were the 3 key themes we heard at Accelerate 2024 in Boston. It feels almost impossible to condense Accelerate's 3 days with more than 50 breakout sessions, 24 hands-on labs, and countless hours of self-service labs sufficiently in the time we have together. If you were with us in Boston, I hope you came away excited and educated. If you were not able to join us, I hope you are curious and are already looking to see where Accelerate is next year. Thank you so much for joining us for this special edition of What I Wish I Knew, and we will see you next time.
Hey, what do you wish you knew more about? It's right here. Follow us on LinkedIn for episode updates.